stay with us. We want to see you fly around us. When the enemy comes in, you drive them away and then come back. We even had an altitude, 18,000 feet, that if we went through 18,000 feet, we had to shot the enemy down. At that time, you had to break it off and come back and do close escort. So that's what we did. And they even fired the 8th Air Force commander. He was a bomber pilot, and he was pretty upset about it. But General Arnold, chief of staff, said, "You guys are just not doing the job." So the new commander was General Jimmy Doolittle. And I don't think I have to introduce him to this crowd. The guy that led the raid over Tokyo within 3 months of Pearl Harbor. It really raised the morale of the country, and it startled the Japanese. They just couldn't believe we had that capability. So Jimmy Doolittle was a different kind of a guy. And he had been instructed to destroy the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, and get it done now. He said the invasion of Europe is scheduled for June of 1941. 44. So that, anyway, he had those special instructions from the chief of the Air Force. And so the big thing that I think he did, these two things that had a significant impact on World War II, the air war over Germany, the arrival of Mustang in the theater, and General Jimmy Doolittle taking command. I didn't know this story, but he wrote it in his book, that he came over to visit the fighter command, and he walked in, and there was a big sign over the door. The mission of the 8th Fighter Command is to bring the bombers home safely. He said, "Who put that up there?" And General Kepner said, "I don't know, it was here when I got here." He said, "Well, you change it. The mission of the 8th Fighter Command is to destroy the Luftwaffe." And so he turned us loose. The young fighter pilots felt like we had a couple of our arms tied behind our back with all of the limitations. He says, from now on, it was pursue and destroy. He says, when you fighter pilots engage the enemy, you take them to the ground and kill them. And wow, we were so happy. And the bomber pilots were really were upset about it. They called it a murder, but as it turned out, it was the best way to do it in that theater at that time. And so the spring of 1944, I think most historians agree now that how we destroyed the Luftwaffe was by killing their experienced pilots. And so the invasion of Europe was on schedule June 6th, 1944. And we had killed their pilots so much that they had empty airplanes. They were cranking out airplanes, but they couldn't get pilots. And they had a lousy replacement pilot training. They thought they could conquer Europe and with what they had, force invading, and they wouldn't have to have any training. So the invasion went off, and not a single German airplane came over the beaches, and instead of hordes of them. I learned later in one of the German history books that a famous fighter ace and his wingmen made a pass down across the beach, and that was the only German airplane that was around when our troops landed. And they thought it was a fake, it was a fake thing. The real thing was going to go across Paddle A. They even set up a phony army that was gathered around up that area on the ground. Okay, so what do we got for next slide, please?
We got those white wall tires.
Oh. You notice the white wall tires? Did that look a little funny to you? Military airplane with white wall tires. Well, when I was at Oroville, California, no, it's not a military base or anything, so I just took my car and drove it out on the flight line and parked it right near where my P-51 was. And I had a 39 Ford convertible, and it had those big white wall tires. Any of you remember those kind of tires? Mm-hmm. Not very many. But they were a little different. So after I got my own P-51, enough where they could assign, the flight leaders at least had personal airplanes. So I think it was right after we got the checker nose red and yellow was our color. My crew chief painted it, put the old crow on there and all this stuff, and they decided to put painted the white wall tires. And it's caused me a lot of trouble a lot of veterans saw that and says, hey, you know, they didn't have white wall tires in Air Force Supply. It kind of put on there with barn paint, came off pretty quick. But that's the story there. Okay, there's a nice day in England. Weather was a factor in every mission we flew over there. And we didn't have a lot of training flying formation in weather, and we learned real fast. And we had zero formation flying training with, we were going with 16 in a squadron, and we had 3 squadrons in a group, and I don't think we ever flew as a group, training back in the States. And in weather being a factor, and I don't know, we did have some clear days, but they were very rare. And a lot of times we took off like this picture here in that weather, and had to go up through maybe 1 or 2 or 3 layers of clouds, and then form up on the top, and then go to join the bombers. Now, the bombers flew in a long line, and then probably made a 90-degree turn and went and hit their targets, and then came home. Well, flying in those long streams, many times they left dense contrails. You see them there. You've seen them in the air yourself. In the wintertime, the heat from the engines made condensations that stayed in the air. Well, just like this picture. And we made our own overcast some days. It seemed.
Oh, maybe that's interfering. Yeah, just flip it on. Yeah, try and turn that on.
It's off right now.
Yeah.
Trying.
Test.